Okay, good evening. Thank you so much for everything. Thank you for your time. First, everybody in this room, at least most of us in this room are from our alumni, whether you attended the Strategy Factory, the convention, all of our different programs. A few of us in this room are from, you're friends of people who are in the room, because we gave opportunity for people to share this link with others. And I'm hoping that this session would be good for you. It is going to take a little long. It might take about an hour, 30 minutes, because what I'm trying to do is to sort of, cramp up a large chunk of what I have personally used over the last couple of years into an hour, 30 minutes. So it's going to be a bit cumbersome. I've had the opportunity to have had remarkable years. I mean, in the last maybe 11, 12 years, I've never had a better last year. I've never had the opportunity to not achieve my goals. In fact, what has happened for the most part is that we've essentially overachieved our goals sort of each year, including this one, by God's grace. And so I want to share with you what has helped me. And again, what I am sharing is my opinion and what works for me. It doesn't have to be what works for you, but I'm sure there are pockets of things that would be very useful for you too. So if you find something that is useful for you, beautiful. If you don't find something that is useful for you, or if you find some things that are not useful for you, take that out and then add the one that is useful for you, mix it all together. The key thing is that you have an amazing year, right? That you have an amazing year. That's the key thing here. So how do you design a year like you've never had it before? This is just for bragging for those people that don't know us before. Just know that we're all right. Oh, yeah. Well, having said all that unnecessary bragging, Lillian said, through his guy tested the fact that each year for years, it keeps getting better and better. Yes. So let me share with you how this journey for me started. So in 2008 was a very tragic year for me, like a really bad year. I had lost my elder brother, and it was a very gruesome process. Gruesome because it involved me staying in the hospital. People who know me know that you can't even talk about, like, maybe somebody's sick and you're explaining it. My body starts itch. If there's any allergy I have, the allergy to hospitals and blood and all of those things. It's one of the reasons why I was very clear that I couldn't be a doctor. So my brother had died in 2008. And essentially, I had started a new journey because I honestly did think that it was a lot better. It was much of a better person than myself, So because he was more driven. I mean, he had a lot of all these things going on for him, But so that happened, and I pretty much coasted through the whole of 2009 rather. I just coasted through the whole of 2009. I just coasted. I was alive, but I was going through the motions. So in 2009, the end of 2009, I got tired of that. And then I asked myself, what would a year look like if I did everything I could possibly do? Like if I look, because, a lot of us look back at the year and, we see things that we could have done better or we could have acted more, or any of those kind of things, right? I didn't want that to happen in my life. I wanted to ask. So I was asking myself, what would a perfect year look like? The year where I get in there, I did every single thing. I just put it all on the table. By the way, please, can you hear me? Let me be sure. If you can hear me, I think most of us can hear me. If I'm okay, good. Thank you. So, so I asked myself, what for me, that was going to be a perfect year. The year where I did everything. I practiced every single principle I could practice. I just did every single thing. what would that year look like? And I got what that year looked like in 2010. And so after that year, I started to look back and say, okay, what were the things that I did? And so I came up with about 10 different things that I did. And I'm going to share them with us. So for me, a perfect year isn't one with perfect outcomes. It's one with perfect effort. And the key word here is effort. Now, the year you look back and know for sure that you gave it every single thing. Every single thing. Now, usually what I have found is that if you give it every single thing you had, usually the results also reflects that you gave it every single thing you had, So, but you have to be detached away from the results because you can't control the results. You can only control the effort. And so what I did was to ask myself, what are the things that I could do? And it would enable me to essentially just look back at my year and know for a fact that I would not have had a better year than that year, and not, of course, if at the end of the year, one of your major testimonies is that you're alive, and it's a good testimony. I mean, 99,000 people, statistically, 99,000 people die every night. But unfortunately, it's not your testimony because you didn't have to do anything to be alive. It was God's testimony. It was God and the angel in charge of you that did all the work, So it means that at the end of the year, you must have stretched yourself. You must have done something with that year that, each of your year would carry something specific. So I want to share with you what I think is very, 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 very important, so that at the end of the year, you would have a decent year. But before I do that, I want to spend just about 5-10 minutes talking about what I think 2023 would look like. And this is very important, especially for those of us that are business owners. I had a meeting with Mr. Igo just about maybe 30 minutes, 2 to 3 hours ago, there about Marriott. And, I was sharing with him something that I'm hoping that he'll be able to do for our mastermind community. And I mentioned that, look, we're entering into what's called the age of compliance. So if you're thinking about 2023, here's a few things that I know would happen. Now, of course, in Nigeria, 2023 is an election year. And typically what that means is that in an election year, there's always what we call funding droughts. Funding drought essentially between February and July, but it could extend to December, depending on what happens with the new administration. So what does this mean? It means that a lot of money is going to not be put into the country. People that invest money into the country, FDI, foreign direct investment, all those kind of things would be pulled out of the country. So a lot of people would pull out their dollars, pull out whatever it is that they're pulling out, that they need to pull out, they pull it out. And so what it means is that 2023 is going to be a relatively tough year because one, it's an election year, and because we don't trust, or rather, because the world doesn't trust our electoral process as much. Not like theirs is better. They have to deal with January 6th, but they will pull out a lot of money. But particularly in 2023, so we've been having a lot of issue with the Japa syndrome. People are moving out, and I feel like we're going to have a few people that would leave by February, but it's going to significantly intensify between June and September because, and please don't fight me, because some people would run out of the country when whoever it is that they hope should win does not win. And from a moral perspective, I want that particular person to win, but from a logical perspective, I don't see a way that he could make it to the magic number. I don't see it. A miracle could happen. If it happens, beautiful. But if it doesn't happen, what would happen is that a lot of people would go out, and then there would be so there'd be a lot of issues with HR trying to fill up roles and the likes. It's also that I think, and I might be wrong, I think that first, the next administration has to get out. We have to get out subsidy. We have to get out subsidy. It's a menace, it's doing more harm than good. And I think, I might be wrong, but I think that Buhari wants to make that the final thing that he does, because the only way that he can sort of help whoever is coming in next is to, remove it. And if he removes it, fuel, in my view, I think that fuel would probably at some point in the year near 400 to 700. Now, that's very, very serious, because if that happens, now why? Because if you remove subsidy, even in Ghana, just our neighboring Ghana here, in Naira, if you convert their per liter to Naira, it's about 905 Naira. So we're going to get there. And once we get there, everything in Nigeria is going to go crazy. Food is going to go crazy. Transportation is going to go crazy. Everything, So 2020, on face value, looks like it's going to be a typically tough year. But that's just what's happening on the outside. On the inside, there's going to be a lot of drive, to be able to get taxes and get money from businesses. So if you run a business and you're not so sure where you stand on the side of the law, as far as your business, in terms of compliance, in terms of all of those things, please, for the sake of God, talk to an accountant, talk to a tax consultant, talk to somebody today to solve that problem before June. You have to. If you haven't solved that problem, the day is going to happen. Whoever that comes in is going to need to raise a lot of money. And unfortunately, there's a lot of money that belongs to the government that isn't getting to the government from within the country, in terms of taxes and the different types of taxes that we should be paying there for ourselves, for our employees, and the like. So it's important. If you run a business here, it's better that you solve it before you're caught. If you're caught, you're gonna pay dearly through your nose. Dearly through your nose. So just wanted to clarify all of those things. Those are things that you need to quickly sort out. So what that means is that some of us next year, to keep some of our best staff, we need to have a plan to increase salary. We need to have a plan to increase salary to keep some of our best staff, because life is going to be a little bit harder for them. Their expense is going to go 200, 300%. And there's going to be a lot of opening within the industry, because a lot of people would have left. So there's going to be a lot of opening, especially for those of them that are high performers. And there's going to be a real possibility that they might need to move to go and work somewhere else so that they can get better paid, because that opportunity exists. So what that means is that if you run a business, you need to make a lot of money in 2023, right? So it's going to be a tough year, irrespective of who becomes president. But that's what it's going to be for most people, But I still maintain the philosophy that in every single economy in the world, there is more money made in chaos than at times of peace. So what it means is that as tough as it's going to be, right, it's also going to be a great year for a lot of people, right? A great year. So why did I say that? The news out there is going to be a lot of gloom and doom, but if you've attended the Strategy Factory, and I hope most of you here have attended, you would have heard in the second module when we talk about, focus on your standards, because you see more of what you focus on. So if you focus on the opportunities, you see a lot more of the opportunities. There's challenges there, but you see a lot more of the opportunities. You focus on the challenges, you'll be completely overwhelmed. So it's very, very important for us to just, sort of clear that one out so that we are all on the same page as far as that is concerned. So having said that, brace up, 2023 is going to be a tough year. But as Robert Schuller says, tough times don't last, tough people do. So let me share with you 10 keys. And again, since 2010 till date, there's been, decently great year, terrible years, whatever it is. But I found that focusing on these things has enabled me to have a better year, make significant progress year in, year out. And I hope that it does the same thing for you. Again, please don't forget, I said that these are what's worked for me. And so I expect that you would learn and then you would audit them for yourself, right? It could work for you. It might not work for you, but whichever one is good, right? Thank you very much. So the first thing is that I don't plan for 1 year. I usually never have a 1 year goal. I usually have a 5-year goal, right? So for example, as a business, right, in Lim Simple, we are we're going into the 3rd phase of a goal that we should achieve by 2026. Like year in 2025. So January 2026, we know what we want to see in terms of revenue. We know what we want to see in terms of quality of clientele. We know what we want to see in terms of brand positioning. We know what we want to see, in terms of so it's a goal to 2026. We started that in 2021. We hit the goal in 2021. We moved into 2022 and we hit the goal that we intend to achieve in 2022. And then we're moving into 2023. So it's an incremental. Why is it important? Tony Robbins said something that I would never forget. He said that people grossly overestimate what they can achieve in 1 year, or rather people overestimate what they can achieve in 1 year and grossly underestimate what they can achieve in 5 years. Right? So if you're somebody who hasn't thought about that, it's important that you think in terms of 5 years, right? So don't just think in terms of 1 year, think in terms of 5 years. So you ask yourself, this is 2022, right? So let's say 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, right? So you ask yourself, what do I want to, what are the indices? What do I want to have by 2027? And then you write all those. Usually, by the time you hit that time, you would have overachieved that, right? So I always recommend that you set 5-year goal and make the 5-year goal, ridiculously inspiring. Let it even scare you, whatever it is that you want to do. And then you take a part of that, maybe 10% or 20% of that, and then you focus on that for this year, right? So that way, it gives you the opportunity to have a cohesive strategy for a 5-year period. So what happens to most people is that they set a goal for 2022 or 2023, and then they go in and then, they do everything. They run their lives like the government in Nigeria, So think about it, right? What's the name of our friend? Someone who just commissioned a bridge, a railway, And one of the reasons why he's just commissioning it now is that the previous administration did not follow up on what the administration before him had done. There's an office building right at Alausa here. If you are turning in from that Jobifele way into Alausa, white, tall office building. It's been empty since Fashola's era. Why? Because somebody started it, the next guy didn't continue it. And so a lot of us run our lives like that, where we have a 1-year goal, and then we go into the year and we do all this stuff and do all this stuff and do all this stuff. And then the year ends, we achieve some, don't achieve some, whatever it is. And then we now go into, we have a completely different project or a completely different whatever, in 2024 or in the following year. And there's no cohesiveness in how we are trying to progress our lives, right? So please, it might make a lot of sense for you to say that instead of having, so for me, I don't have 1 year goals. I don't have 1 year goals. I have 5-year goals, and I walk those goals backwards with concrete plans, right? So I say to myself, I want to do $1 billion by X year. So to do $1 billion, in the first year of those 5-year goals, we want to hit 100 million, and then we do 800 million. The next year we say, okay, good, we want to do 200, and 250 rather. And then we go out there, do the work, put all the things inside, you hit that goal, and then you say, okay, this next year we want to hit 400, and then you start to go incrementally and incrementally. And before you know it, you're at your goal. And the reason why that's important, because if you think about it from a 5-year perspective, it allows you to build the blocks well. Because what happens to most of us is that we think about our lives in just 1 year interval. And what happens is that, you think, if you see just the next 1 year, then let's assume you're trying to create a building, and you see the next 1 year, and in your mind, you're thinking, okay, I want to build maybe like a bungalow, a 1-story building. So you put the foundation down, and then the next year you realize that you can take this thing higher. So before you know, you start piling up, a lot of beautiful, shiny edifice on this thing that isn't strong enough, and then your entire business crumbles, right? So it allows us, even from a business perspective, my entire staff know where we're supposed to be in 2026. And we also don't just have a goal in terms of revenue, but also a goal in what each person is supposed to be handling. So if we're going to be at this place in 2026, this is the competence, this is the skills that is needed. So people are picking up those skills. So for example, being in the 3rd year of our on our plan, even the strategy factory is shifting a little bit, right? So, some things that I used to do at the strategy factory. Someone said a lot of our fans are locked out. I'm sorry. I mentioned that it's just space for 100 people. So if you are lucky to be here, just don't make sure your internet does not throw you out. Sorry. All right. So having said that, so I lost my train of thought. So even the strategy factory, certain things that I did at some point, I'm not going to be doing, anymore, at some other point. So it's important to keep progressing. So please, if you're somebody that makes a 1-year plan and they make another one at the end of the year and then makes another one at the end of the year, just try this out. Think about the next 5 years, right? And then pick maybe 4 or 5 things that you want to happen over the next 5 years. 4 or 5 big dreams, go for them. And when you pick those things, again, it can be in your business. I recommend that you have goals set up, say in your business, in your personal life, maybe your relationship, with your wife, with your kids, the likes, in your spiritual life, your relationship with your God, for me, and then in your health. Those 4 areas are quite very, very important. And it's important to think about the next 4 or 5 years and not just the next 1 year, right? So that you have something that you're pursuing over a period of time, right? The second thing is that you have to be clear, right? Be absolutely clear. This is very, very important. Funny to see this guy up here and this guy down here. They are both Mercedes-Benz. Both of them are Mercedes-Benz. So if you are praying to God and you say, Father, Lord, I want a Benz. I want a Benz in the name of Jesus. If Angel Sikiru, there's Angel Sikiru and Angel Tony. Sikiru is from the rural area. If Angel Sikiru brings you this car, it won't be wrong, right? If Angel Tony brings somebody else this car, it won't be wrong. So the idea here is, we have to be as clear as possible, on what we want, right? You want, somebody say beans. Beans and beans. Security won't see me. Okay. If you don't want the security to see you, be clear. Be very clear as to what you want. If you, in business, be clear as to what your revenue target is. Don't just say you want to be rich or we want to be making money. Don't just say you want to buy a certain type of car. Don't just say you want to be in a certain type of office. Don't just be clear. There is nothing that beats absolute clarity in our lives. Being clear has a significant value. Significant value, being clear. So please work on your clarity, all right? if somebody who has no, if the person in heaven, if the person in heaven, right? If the person in heaven that is handling your file goes on leave, and your file is being handled by another person that wants to help you process your order, and the person was not there when you were telling your friends that it's Mercedes Benz that you want, and they see Benz in your order sheet, are they going to know whether it is 911 Benz or it is Mercedes Benz? Right? So it's very, very, very important that you're clear. So the first rule that I said is that try not to plan for 1 year, think about 5 years, right? It makes more sense that way. So that, so that your 1 year is on a journey to the 5 years, right? So the second rule is, in also trying to plan those things, try not to be ambiguous, just be clear what you want. And please, when you start to write down what you want, don't be afraid to write what you truly want. It's one of the reasons why I want you to think about 5 years, because what's possible in our lives over a 5-year period, especially in an economy like Nigeria, is ridiculously, it's beyond imagination. I know businesses. I know a business that we consult for. We've consulted for the business since 2000 and early 2021 or late 2020. The business, they're in their 4th year. They're entering their 5th year next year. And the business this year closed out at 30 billion naira revenue. They closed out at 30 billion naira revenue. 4 years ago, when the man started the business, he's working on the streets. On the streets. But, I have opportunities to talk to these guys. And, he's not surprised as to where they are because he saw this a couple of years ago. He got there a little earlier than he hoped, but he saw this a couple of years ago. So it's very, very important that you want what you truly want, not what you think you can get, right? Very, 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 very important here. So that's the second rule. Remember, the first rule is think about 5 years, not just one. The second is be clear about what you want. The third is something that it's a bit touchy. I hope you see what I'm trying to communicate, but I just hope. 3 is one mistake that a lot of us have. Don't have too many goals. Like in a match, anything more than 5 goals makes the match a joke. Right? Anything more than 5 goals makes the match a joke. And so this is how I see it. Think about your goals like themes. So a lot of the things that we call goals are plans, right? Let me explain. So I could say to myself, I could set a goal, for example, that I want to go on vacation to, let's say, Singapore, right? It's a goal. Or I could say to myself, I want to make 500 million naira in my business in 2023. And if I hit 500 million naira in my business, I'll reward myself with a trip to Singapore. And I would know that I'm on course to hit that amount of money when by June, July, we had hit these revenue numbers. We've achieved 1, 2, 3. And so we could buy a ticket to Singapore. So that way, my goal to go to Singapore is now attached to my ultimate goal to hit 500 million naira that year. So you see how I just collapsed, one goal into another, right? Now, what most people do is that they'll say, I want to go to Singapore. Then I want to do this, and I want to do this. When a lot of the things that they want to do if they picked one major thing that, that could be focused on, they could attach all those other things to that one thing. So that as they are achieving this one thing, every other thing is being sorted out in their lives. That way, it makes their entire, it gets them laser focused. Because here's the thing, in this journey of hustle, of business, of life, focus is king, right? Focus is significantly invaluable. Like, it's more valuable, right? So it's important to focus heavily on what you truly want. And it's important to make sure that you're not chasing so many things, so that you're not thinking about too many things on a day-to-day basis. Now, a lot of people might not agree with this, but, so for example, I could say to myself, I want to be healthy. Maybe I go to, I don't know, what do you call this? Medical checkup, and they check a couple of my vitals and the likes. And then the doctor say, oh, you need to have this BMI, or you need to have this weight and this and that, and all that kind of stuff, right? Good. And so I say to myself, I want to be healthy based on X parameters. I want to look back in December 31st, 2023, and I want to be this healthy. And so that is the goal. The goal is I'm going to be X healthy. And so part of trying to achieve that goal would then be that I would talk about something called DMO, daily mode of operation. I'll exercise 30 minutes a day, right? I would take a walk for 20 minutes a day. I would join a cycling club. I would do that. So those things move away from being my goals to being how I achieve my goals. And so at the end of the day, I end up collapsing what other people have on their, some people have an entire booklet. And you ask them, what's your goals? These are all my 2023 goals. And they're like, it's going to be very difficult to hit it, So you have your 2023 goals, maybe 4 or 5 of them, major goals. And then each of them have not more than 4 or 5 things that you need to do to be able to achieve that. And then maybe 3 or 4 things that are rewards if you achieve that. So for example, I just said I could have my Singapore trip attached to something, or I could have, okay, I want to buy a car. Okay, good. I want to buy a car. Beautiful. What's going to happen in my business? What's going to happen in my life that would make buying a car not a problem? In fact, that will make buying a car the best thing to do, maybe because I need to save money on taxes, on company income, corporate tax and the likes. And so I would set that as a goal so that the car becomes a byproduct of that goal. I won't set the car as a goal and set that as a goal. So this is a controversial part of it. Some of us might not agree with this, but again, I've mentioned that this is what I do and it's worked for me. So if you ask me right now, I know I don't have so many goals. I have just 5 of them right now, 4 actually. I have just 4 main goals that I'm focused on in 2023. And those are the 4 things that I'm focused on. Right? So again, you don't have to agree with this, And I keep saying you don't have to agree with this because I know that for a lot of people, this is not how they set goals. But at the end of the year, I have 4 things thereabout that I want to achieve. I do a lot in a year. A lot of things that happen for me. And then different areas. So what I do is that I have 4 areas of my life that are very important. Right? 4 areas of my life. I just mentioned business, my family, my faith, because my relationship with God, and my health. These 4 areas of my life are critically important. So what I do is that I set just one goal in each area. Now, those 1 goals are themes, So for example, in my business, I know that business is essentially sort of about numbers, right? So I say to myself, I want to do 450 million in 2023. So that brings me to ask a couple of questions. Okay, what product are we going to be serving to hit that goal? So how is our business going to be structured? Because the way your business is structured, doing 50 million, 60 million, 80 million, is going to be different from the way your business is structured, doing 200, 300, 400 million, And so I ask, what product are we going to be serving, to hit that number? Product and the client we're going to be serving. 2, what structure does our business require to hit that number? And then the third thing is what capacity in terms of what training, what competence, right? That's the right word. What competence level needs to be in the entire team to hit those goals. So I would figure that out, and I would know that that's what's happening with business goals. And then I would go to my my family goals and say, okay, what's the thing that would encapsulate that I've had a beautiful year with my family this year? And I would set that one goal, and then I would ask, what needs to happen for that to happen? Financially, what needs to happen for that to happen? Structurally, and then what needs to happen for that to happen in terms of what I need to learn. So those are I like the questions that are coming. How do you incorporate goals into your 5-year plan? So, so remember, at the beginning, each of these 4 major goals are 5-year goals, right? So for example, I would say something like, let me pick, okay, what with business is pretty clear. So let me take something that is not, say my health, right? I would say, okay, I could say that 5 years from now, I want to have a body like Cristiano Ronaldo, 1% body fat and everything. So I could then bring it down here and say, okay, it's year 1 of that plan, and okay, I don't have enough money, so I'm going to focus on doing 30 minutes walk every day. Okay, if I do 30 minutes walk every day, and those 30 minutes walk every day can work, and then I could then say, okay, in next year I would be able to afford it, perhaps, and so I would join a cycling club, or I would join a group, because if you join a cycling club, you have to buy a bicycle, you have to buy this, you have to buy that, you have to have the time to be able to do some of those things. Do you understand? So you go through that way, and then by the time you hit that 5th year, you have the kind of body you want, you have the kind of feeling you want, you have the kind of body fat you want, and all of that kind of stuff. So I like to think about things in terms of themes. What's the major theme for the year, and not just the nitty-gritty. And I'll talk to you about how it crystallizes down to the nitty-gritty for the day. But it just makes sense to get up and know that there are 5 different things, your 5 major things in your life that you're trying to achieve this year, and then just go for them, right? So once you create those things, one of the things that we must use to guarantee that because again, it's one of the reasons why New Year resolutions are even, so some of us are going to go to church tomorrow now, some of us are going to go to church tomorrow, and you're going to pray. The pastor's going to tell you something. The year is the year of X, Y, and Z, and then you're going to be energized about that for the whole of January, maybe middle of February, and then you're going to forget what the pastor said, and then you're going to remember in July when they are trying to rekindle the love that you had for what you heard at the beginning of the year. Or in the case where pandemic happens, then everybody's going back to the Bible to go and check what the pastor really said. So, but one of the ways to make sure that you essentially make things happen is that you convert your goals into a standard. And and the best way that I know how is to put your reputation on the line, right? So what I mean by that is that find somebody or a group of people that you are too afraid, so this is not African, sorry, it's typographical error. So that you are too afraid, not Africans, you are too afraid or too ashamed to disappoint. And you'll be well on your way to success. Right? You are too afraid, not Africans, you are too afraid or too ashamed to disappoint. So one of the things that I do is that I would sit down, for example, from a business perspective, I would sit down with the staff and I would say, this is what we would achieve this year. And it would happen. It would happen again, accountability partner. Yeah, that's exactly what. But this accountability partner, so the way I see accountability, partnership is that sometimes we need to be a bit more strict with ourselves, on it, because your accountability partner cannot be somebody that, again, for lack of a better word, I don't think the right word is accountability partner. You see, because sometimes the people that we call accountability partner are people that could be understanding when we don't do things right. And we need those people in our lives, don't get me wrong, we need them significantly. But in this regard, what I am talking about is the people that we have in our lives that make it very difficult for us to explain away why we did not achieve something. Do you understand? People that you have in your life that make it difficult for you to explain away why you did not achieve something. So I have those types of people in my life, right? I have them. They are not my accountability partners. Some of them, I pay heavily to have access to them. And then I go to them at the beginning of the year. And then I say to them, this and this and this is what I'm going to achieve this year. Of course, they could be mentors. They could be coaches. They could be, if you find an accountability partner, when they look at your face, then you can confide in that person. They can't be your spouse, because if you have a really good spouse, and I hope that all of us here have, they will love you unconditionally. I don't want somebody that will love me unconditionally. I want somebody whose relationship with me on this level is conditioned on my ability to perform what I have, to deliver on the things that I have said. Right? So that's what I want. I want somebody whose relationship with me is conditioned on my ability to deliver on the things that I have said that I would deliver with them. And so I would, because if you don't do that, what will happen is that you would lose a lot of momentum. Because you see, the energy, the euphoric energy that we generate when we set our goals, especially at the beginning of the year, or you go somewhere, sit down in the middle of, some of us in setting our goals, you have prayed for like 6 hours, and it's as if the Lord is just the one whispering the goals to your ear, and, or you go to redemption camp, and all that. You finish setting the goals. And then you come out of redemption camp, and the traffic that is outside, all the Holy Spirit that you gathered inside that camp has left you. You're already causing somebody's father. Right? And now, all that energy isn't there. So how do you generate, how do you keep going in that respect? The only way you keep going in that respect is that you now anchor it on somebody or on a group of people to whom your reputation and your acceptance into that group is at stake if you don't deliver on what is promised. And I think that that's very, very powerful. I think that if we find those types of people, it will change our lives. It's been what has changed my life. I have, and I could name them. I have 4 people, and 3 of them in the area of my business, and then 1 of them in the area of my relationship, and if I want to do something, I would just say to them that, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And my people know me. They know that if I want to get into trouble, those are what I would do. So the first thing I would do is that I would think about something, and I would call those 3 people, and I would tell them. And then before I even tell my staff. And so when I tell my staff, I'll tell them, look, I've told these people, so there's no explanation as to how it will not happen. We're going to make this happen. We either do it or we die trying, and we go to heaven, and God knows that we tried, right? So you need to find those types of people. Because if you don't, none of us has enough willpower to achieve the things that we've said we're going to achieve. Because we're not going to feel like that every day. So it's important that you put your reputation at stake, and then you let somebody you let somebody know, right? So let me run. Number 5 is the one that I used to say. And I'm saying this for those of us that belong to the I cannot come and kill myself generation. You know, there's this whole thing about you need to work smart. I agree. I agree, honestly. But if you work with me, my people in my office, you need to call them. My people, they know that me, I like hard work. You know, my dad said something to me pretty early in my life that I repeat to myself every time. He says that make sure that anything, as long as you can work for it, make sure that that thing is not beyond your reach. So, for example, I know that I cannot be the King of England because he actually have to born you to become the King of England. But anything else that is achievable, I'll achieve it, no matter how much work it requires, because you must not be afraid of working hard. Because a lot of us bought the work smart ideology because it absorbs us, or we think it absorbs us of the responsibility to work hard. But I personally, Kisito said, I got a group of accountability together and discovered that they won't be pushing me, but actually need me to push them. You ran. Well, you can still be there, but just find somebody that is pushing you so that you can push those people too. I mean, you can still be there. Don't run. Help them. They need you in their lives. Right? But the key here is don't be afraid of working hard. You see, because anything that you want to achieve is going to take hard work. Yes, it's going to take working smart, and working smart is beautiful. Find, fantastic ways to get things done. But I do not know anyone who's achieved anything significant and not worked hard. I don't know. So you need to sweat. I do not know anyone who's achieved anything significant without hard work. So please, I'd like us to just settle that in our mind. Don't buy into the ideology that things should get easier. In fact, I learned that from, what's his name? Jim Rohn. I teach something called founding principles, founding philosophies, philosophies that have helped me. And I'm probably going to share that with people that are in the mastermind. By the way, our mastermind is filling up. I'm excited about what's happening with them. And one of those philosophies is something that I learned from Jim Rohn. It says, don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. Don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. Why? Because life is not designed to be easier. Human beings are designed to be better. So if you think about it this way. Many years ago, malaria it still kills a lot of people, but a lot more many years ago. People just died and they didn't know what's up, right? People just died and they didn't know what's up. In 2020, the pandemic, people just died, we couldn't figure it out. Thousands of people were dying, hundreds of thousands of people were dying every day, every week, whatever it is. But now, right, what happened is that people are not dying as much, or people are not dying as much of malaria. It's not that the malaria parasite got weaker. What happened was that the human being got better. In the case of the COVID, our immune system, sort of figured it out and said, okay, now the way this thing they arranged this. They arranged, of course, some of us got vaccinated. Even those that didn't get vaccinated, over time, your immune system, you catch it, overcome it. Your immune system sort of adjusts, it gets stronger, it figures it out, and all of that. But human beings are designed to be better. So please don't fall into the fantasy of wanting to choose between smart work and hard work. How many of us get what I'm trying to say? Please get what I'm trying to say. I want you to just, type something. Don't fall into the fantasy of wanting to choose between hard work and smart work. Don't fall. It's a trap. It's a trap. In fact, what I find is that a lot of the people who are selling these fantasies to you, they're working so hard to tell you not to work hard. They're working so hard. You know, somebody is doing 25 YouTube videos. 25 YouTube videos. He released 25 YouTube videos in a week, in a month, telling you that hard work is not good. But do you know how hard it is to do 25 YouTube videos? They're working hard, telling you not to work hard. Work hard, though. It's a scam. They're working hard. There is nobody on the face of the earth that has achieved anything significant without working hard. And it's important. And I'm saying this because a lot of us here employ people. It's critical that you let your people know. My people know it, right? That this thing that we want to achieve. Let me give you an instance. I was doing an analysis with our CEO. You know, so we have this thing that we're trying to do because we're on this 5-year growth curve, and we realized that we're going to be on a significant growth curve. We decided to go because I teach that you should build a business that represents the dream of your staff. So we decided to go on a journey beginning from the beginning of this year and up until 2025. So it's in 2022, 23, 24, and 25. And what we try to do in those 4 years, what we're trying to do, we know that even if we keep growing at that rate, we will not be able to do it beyond 2025, at least not as that rate. But what we're trying to do in those 4 years is that we want to try and see if we can double, right, our staff salary each year for those 4 years. It was, of course, I'm not dashing anybody money. Everybody has KPIs, everybody has all this stuff, and all the things that you needed to do and the likes. And this year we achieved it, say, to about 95%, because we achieved it for some members of the team and didn't achieve it for some members of the team. Because each month I would sit down with the team and say, so I was trying to explain to somebody on the team, about, I think, a year or two, that person might have been in a position where, salary would be somewhere around 1M. Sorry, not in a year or two. About 2 years plus. Salary would be about 1M a month, right? So I was trying to explain to the person, do you know the kind of people that earn 1M a month, say, in the banking industry, for example? Right? So let's look at a fast-growing industry, so the banking industry. An average person who's earning 1M a month in the banking industry typically would have worked, let's say, somewhere between, that worked in the same organization, entered as entry level, and is working in the same organization, would have done 15 to 17 years if the person is a high flyer, and probably 20 years if the person is an average person. Who's there that can agree with me, that has some banking experience, and can agree with me on this? Oh, Raymond, you're here. Raymond, how you doing? Right? Who's there that can agree with me? So you're working in a bank, you started at entry level. You came in at management trainee up until when you're earning $1 million in a month. That typically would be about 15, 17 years for a high flyer, and maybe about 20 years if you're, sort of just going through the normal track, right? And so the first thing I explained to the person is that, so we're trying to get you to this place in less than 7 years of work. And look at the kind of work that this person would do in the organization. Of course, this person, 15 to 17 years in the banking sector, has endured stupendous targets, MPLs that are bloody, bosses that are ridiculous, all these things, and also would have a certain amount of skill level that they would develop. And so I tell them that if you want to hit that level, you need to be developing at a stupendous rate, right? Your personal development must be mad. And those that know me know that, even me, I know say I did try. I did try. I work hard. I walk. I know. Even me, I know. Even my own people know that I like work. I work today now. There's no holiday for me. Tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm out. Today, this meeting would be my 4th meeting today. You know, I sleep well. I still find 6 to 8 hours of sleep every day. Oftentimes, 6 hours most often. Some nights I can get up to 8. I still exercise. I'll take a walk this evening for 40 minutes every evening. When I finish, put the kids to bed, maybe around 8:30, 9. I live in a quick, pretty safe estate. I'll take a walk. It's part of the things that I do. It's part of when I get to daily mode of operation, I'll let you know. But it's important that you realize that in the equation of this life that we're talking about, hard work is a critical matter. So don't fall into the fantasy of buying the ideology that there's a level of smart work that you could do that would require you, that you don't work as hard. You know, don't fall into that, you know. Always know that, look, let me give you an instance. If you're an entrepreneur, I was sharing with DG, I think DG's here, I was sharing with DG yesterday that, you know, we need a new type of financial education for entrepreneurs. Because a large chunk of the financial education that we have, you know, that we have documented is financial education for people who are employees. Let me explain. So I see people who say things like, you know, you should work towards not being broke again. And if I see that, I know that mindset, it's an employee mindset. See, because entrepreneurs are always broke. If you're an entrepreneur here and you're working hard, you're always broke. Now, the definition of being broke is different from time to time. I mean, Dangote's definition of being broke now might be he has just $10 billion or 10 billion in his account, right? Because essentially being broke is not being poor. Being broke is that you have necessary expenses that is more than the cash that you have left. And everybody who's an entrepreneur, who's really building, definitely is trying to do something bigger than they are currently doing. Dangote's net worth is $13.5 billion, and is building a $14 billion refinery. You know what that means? It means that if he fails in that refinery will wipe out his entire net worth, possibly. So when people ask me how things they go, I say, me and Dangote, they find money together. Me and we are all looking for money. You know? So the key here is that there's always more to do. There's always a lot more that an entrepreneur needs to do, right? And so, I mean, one of the things that we're going to be working with people at the mastermind is to figure out what's the new financial model for entrepreneurs. For example, another thing that I share with entrepreneurs is, you know, an employee is told, okay, save money on this plan so that you can buy some of the things, like maybe you want to buy a car. An entrepreneur should never save money to buy a car because it's a stupid thing to buy. Build your business, and at the end of the year, let your accountant tell you that, see this 50 million, this 60 million, you have to spend it on a car so that you can run down expenses and pay less taxes. That's how you buy a car. You don't gather money to buy a car when you can use that money to do something reasonable in your business. Build your business and let the business necessitate that you buy something like that for yourself, right? So that's how it works, right? So we need a new, we need a new type of, you know, body of knowledge for entrepreneurs, you know, in terms of, you know, so for example, entrepreneurs know that saving money, savers lose money. Savers lose money, right? Because ultimately you're losing money faster in value than you're gaining in numbers, you know? So what entrepreneurs realize is you have money, you must always find where that money could go so that I can be producing more money. You must always expand your business. You must always, you know, but that is for our mastermind. 6. So from 6 to 10. So in these first 5, at least the first 4 rather, I've shared with you, how to be able to create the goal, think 5 years. So the first, just to do a quick recap, I've said, think about 5 years, be clear about what you want, don't have too many of them, develop themes for your life, and then let every other thing fall into plans on how to achieve those goals. Find someone or a group of people that you're going to, be accountable to, who would not allow you drop the ball, and then I've talked about, so from 5, I'm trying to get into how you can make it work. So I said, for example, don't ever fall into the fantasy of wanting a life that is less hard. Do you understand? Don't ever fall into that fantasy. It's a fantasy. It does not exist. There is no version of a great life that requires, in fact, there's no version of any life. There's hard work everywhere. You want to have a useless life, there's hard work. It requires hard work to have a stupid life also. Just think about it, right? You want to have a life where, let me give you an instance. You see all those people that beg on the street, you don't know how hard it is. In fact, one of the things that I want to study this year, in fact, one of the things that we are creating a lot of structures, like this 2023, 2024, I want to do a lot of studies. I want to study how beggars think. You see, because you drive by, somebody's begging you, you look at them with so much disdain. And some of us don't even give them any money. Some of us don't even look at their face. Some of us even, we treat them really terribly. But those beggars are making 20, 25, 30K in a day. So those beggars must know something. They must know something about how they structure their business that we don't know. You understand? They must know something, because they must know that this guy where they just look me anyhow, or those ones that want to quickly clean your windshield, and you say, me, I go down on water, just scatter the whole thing. They know that they're not going to come. So one day I'm driving in Lekki, and I realized something that was, because you know what happens? Those guys know that once they start cleaning your windshield, if you have money, you give them, because the thinking is that you now owe them something. So what those people now started doing, at least in Lekki, I've not seen it on the mainland, in Lekki, is that instead of cleaning your front windshield, they now clean the side windshield. So, if you are cleaning the front, the person can on his water, you spray, so they are not cleaning the side one. And they know that if they clean it for you, you might not give it to him, but they've already set your mind up. They will already set up your mind for the next person. At some point, you're going to hand it over to someone. Those people have an understanding of the law of averages more than we do. They have an understanding of the law of averages more than many of us do. If we have the persistence of those guys, we need to gather a chief beggar and put him inside a room and let him give us a masterclass. Right? Do you understand? Masterclass on persistence, a masterclass. Do you understand? I want to study those guys. These guys are, I'm telling you, if somebody figures out how to scale that beggar system, they'll be making money. In fact, some people have figured it out. Some people have figured it out. Because some people put those people in those places every day and they deliver to those people. And they're there. Come rain, come shine. Thank you, Abisola. Their business is 24/7. Come rain, come shine. It's raining, it's shining. They're there. All of us don't close shop because of rain. So work hard, work smart, do both. 6, prioritize inspiration. This is very critical, very critical. Prioritize inspiration. If there's going to be any of these things that are going to be more important for you, I think it's going to be this one. Because, and inspiration is the fuel of entrepreneurship. That's the truth. Inspiration, if you ask what, or someone said, I know some couples who are both beggars. That one don't deep. Inspiration is the fuel of entrepreneurs. And let me help you understand what inspiration is. Inspiration is what happens to you when you see something and it suddenly occurs to you that you can do that or have that too. And so one of the things that you have to prioritize is inspiration. And let me explain what I mean by that. First, make sure that your environment inspires you. First, environment where you live. You might be, so let me start with those who don't have a choice. You might be living in an environment that is not, okay, perfect. How many of us here know Moody, fashion designer, Moody? One of the most expensive fashion designer in the country. If you know him, just say yes. Beautiful. So I and him became, quite close. I was introduced to him through some of his offices in Antony. If you go to his office, the street is a bit rough, but if you see his office, oh, blood of God. I have not met and I've not seen an office. And it's tailoring that they're tailoring. I have not seen an office that is as beautiful as that. So one day I was talking to him in his office. Because I usually would go, sit down, and talk. So I was talking to him in his office and I saw a picture. He's been in business, at least this was at 2018. He'd been in business for 26 years. So he showed me a picture of outside of the building and the inside. When you see the inside of the building, you would be shocked when they show you the outside of the building. He said that he started inside that, he started his business, he was living and working in a one-room face me and face you 26 years ago. He said, but he realized that is in the face me and face you must not look, he must not look like a face me and face you. So he did a lot of work in making sure that inside of his place is inspiring, and absolutely inspiring. It's clean. It looked color. He uses white. He used white colors. He used, just places in such a. He put things in such a way that it's inspiring for him, right? And so he said that we underestimate, the power of inspiration for an entrepreneur, right? So the second thing that I also recommend is that, so for example, in the first house that I stayed when I got married, it's not in such a bad place. It was around. So I stayed in Magodo Phase 1 for a while. So I stayed in Magodo Sherry itself for a while. And then I moved to Unilag Estates before I moved over and I stayed in Okwebi. But when I moved to, because at that time, I couldn't afford, I actually wanted to stay in Omoli Phase 2, actually. But I didn't have enough budget at the time. So I got a place outside of Omole Phase 2 in the Magodo Sherry. It's not in an estate, it's a typical street. But I made sure that it wasn't far from the Omole Phase. I paid for 2 years, but I only stayed for like a year plus. And I'll tell you why. So I made sure that it wasn't far from Omole Phase 2, yes. So, but in that area, I could either just go straight to Bega and then get to Ikeja because my office was off Awolowo Way. But what I did was that I bought the sticker for Omole Phase 2. It was deliberate. It was a bit of an extra cost. It wasn't really so much difference in time, in terms of drive time, but I needed to drive through that place, drive through an environment that was inspiring for me, get to work, and then drive out. That drive through kept reminding me that this is where I really want to stay. So I would leave the house and then I would walk all the way and walk into the estate and take my walks in the evenings. And I didn't finish the rent in that place before I moved away from that place into an environment that, that was a bit more befitting, right? Another thing that I recommend is go to the kind of places. Ask yourself, if I were to achieve this kind of goal, what are the kind of places I would go to? I always tell people, go. And I'm not telling you things that I've not done before. Go to Sheraton, go to a nice hotel close to your area, and just go there and sit down and buy water. I know, and I've said this many times, I know when you buy that kind of water, it's like 1.5. In your mind, water is supposed to be 100 naira. I know. So when you buy that water, put it in a glass cup, sip it very slowly because The water that you buy for 1.5, Jesus Christ has turned it to wine, right? But sip it very slowly. But the key here is go to places that inspire you. Go to places that inspire. Sit down and just observe. Observe how people are in that environment. Particularly observe how they feel like they deserve to be in that environment. Because usually when you go into that environment, you feel out of place. But as you do that often and often and often again, one day it would click and you will say, I belong in this place. And so your mindset will adjust. And usually a moment of inspiration can move you years ahead. I told people, those of us that attended the convention was, I had people, it's essentially, in terms of a knowledge event, it's essentially one of the biggest knowledge events that people paid that much. Because even all those are artists that are closing everywhere. It's not like 5K regular, 12K. We're talking about an event of 400,000 there. And then we're talking about the fact that 200 plus people came. And of course, we're planning for 1,000 for next year. But it was, and the reason why more people haven't done it, of course, aside from Nia Adesanya, the reason nobody else in our industry has done it is because it's hard to do. It costs more than 30-something million to organize that event. People are afraid to do it. So I went into Nia Adesanya's event, and Nia Adesanya is a mentor to me, but I pay to attend it. So I pay and I attend, because I know that if I pay, so I tell people that, look, majority of what Nia Adesanya is going to say in an event like that, I have heard it. For example, on the 1st of January now, or 2nd, he has something that he does on 1st or 2nd, and just for those of us that is produce, I would go there. Okay, being Sunday, he might probably do it on the 2nd, because Sunday is also public holiday. We'll be there from like 8, 10 a.m. in the morning, and we'll be there till they chase us, like 10 p.m. And you see, all these things that he's teaching in this place, he has given us the raw version, the version that is hot. As he's hotting in his head, he's dropping it. In fact, he's using us to verify. And so when we hear it in the open place, we know that, there's some part he did not put there, because we know that if you put it there, it can sound like heresy, whatever. But why do we still pay? I pay because when I pay that money, my brain says I must get value for it. So when I enter into that space, I'm looking for not just what is being said, but just looking for moments of inspiration. And so I sat down in that, I walked into that hall on the 11th of November, 2021. I walked into the hall, and I like to get there early. The meeting was start at 9. I got there 6:30. So I get into the place 6:30. I walked into the hall, they're still arranging, and I said to myself, you know what? I can do this thing. So the moment I said I can do it, guess what happened? First, I walked up to Peacemaker, the project manager, and said, what would it cost to do this thing? He told me it was about 45 million. I said, okay, I'll do it. Now, to make sure that I do it, what I did was that I picked up the phone, called Nia Adesanya. I said, sir, I'm doing this thing next year. Because it's one of the people that I cannot disappoint. I called him. I called 2 other people, I won't mention their names, that I cannot disappoint, and I told them I'm doing it next year. Then the next thing, I called my team. I said, look, we're doing this next year. And then I called, because again, why it was also important was that there was something we wanted to achieve in 2022. And I've been racking my head and say, okay, because we're going for a 2026 goal, right? I'm like, how do we have a significant jump in our brand equity and all of that? So this fit right in. And then I called my staff. I said, this is what we're going to do. And then before 12 noon, I called 2 or 3 speakers, and I booked them for the event. And now that I've booked speakers, I cannot not do the event, So it's very important. Prioritize inspiration. Prioritize inspiration. Inspiration is very critical to your success. It's the most critical thing. So what does that mean? It means that when you make money in your business and you remove the cost and you are about to declare profits, don't declare profit, don't declare margin. Take some part of that and use that to generate inspiration. Some of us, what it might necessarily mean is that you need to invest a little more in if you work from home, invest a little more in where you work from home. For some of us, it might be you need to invest a little more in your office. For example, we're moving into a new office. We're spending an arm and a leg. I'm spending more money than I have ever spent putting an office together in my life. Why? Because I've asked myself, what are the type of clients that we are going to be serving in 2026, right? I've gone around to look at what their office is like, and I want my office to mirror those offices, period. Right? So prioritize inspiration, right? A moment of inspiration can shift you years ahead. The truth is that all of us in this room, we are achieving to the level that we have achieved because of the level of what we think we can achieve. If we change the level of what we think we can achieve, trust me, what you can really achieve would be mind-boggling. So it's very critical that you do that. Prioritize inspiration. 7, prioritize learning. Prioritize learning, because ultimately, learning pays you. And before you think that this is like a pitch to ask you to come and do any training, most people have known it, that people that come to Strategy Factory or come to the Strategy Factory, the Strategy Convention, yes, you would probably learn a couple of things, but what you would really gain from there is the inspiration and the energy and possibly the networking. So, but when I say prioritize learning, I mean that spend some time each day learning. Notice that I did not say reading, because today, learning is not only achieved by reading. So notice that I didn't use reading. Right? You can learn from books. You can learn differently these days. For example, I like to do more audiobooks. I have a lot of books, but I read books a lot slowly than I do audiobooks. So I like to do a lot of audiobooks. I like to also watch videos. So I spend about 15 minutes a day, 15, 20 minutes a day watching videos about different companies, different technology, and the like. In fact, the one that I have highmarked that I'm going to watch either tonight or tomorrow morning once I wake up is so I follow a guy called Phineas. Phineas does company forensics, does explanation of businesses, why they succeed, why they fail, and explanation of technology. So I want to watch an expose on the new software or the new AI tool that is changing everybody's life called ChatGPT, I think, right? ChatGPT. So that's what I'm going to spend a lot of tomorrow sort of studying and understanding. Okay, what is this technology? How does it change, people's lives? I've downloaded the app already. Yeah, ChatGPT. So, OpenAI. Yeah, I've downloaded the app already. I have, started to fiddle with it, started to figure out exactly how it works. And I'm starting to see how it will change how we work, and the like. So I went in line of that, I had a meeting today, with a tech team to figure out how we can improve our process, the technology part of our business, and figure out how it works. So try and learn, prioritize learning. Because here's the thing, we would always rise or level out to the level of our learning. Right? If you don't know something is possible, it's not possible for you. It's just that simple. If you don't know something is possible, it's not possible for you. And no matter how, and learning is very important because it also helps clarify or helps you figure out what you really want. Because, so let me give you an instance. A lot of people might not know that doing an event in, say, a hotel like this, as expensive as it looks, is not. Yeah, you spend a lot of money. We did spend more than X amount of money, but 30-something million. But one of the things that you realize is that you won't exactly spend any of your money, right? Because all the money that you will spend will be monies that people have given you, and then you spend it, right? So, but it's not. It's by talking to people who's done that before, or by figuring out how to, just prioritizing learning. It's going to change your life. So please prioritize inspiration, prioritize learning. Notice that I didn't say reading because, for many years, we made it look like those that are not reading are not learning. And now we know better. We know that many times learning can happen with or without actual books. Learning could mean that you're always finding ways to talk to people that have done something that you've done before, and just sort of figure out what they're learning, what they are doing or what's in their head, right? I prioritize learning. Sometimes I meet people who've done something more. I pay them to be able to buy a little bit of their time. Sometimes paying them is expensive. Sometimes paying them is cheap. Sometimes, there are people that I know by relationship, and I would say, you know what, let me buy you lunch and let's just sit down and let me just ask you a couple of questions, So I would ask a couple of questions and I would learn something. One good conversation can save you 5 years of study. One good conversation can save you 5 years of study. One good conversation, 5 years of study gone. One good conversation, 5 years of study in the bag, right? If you have one great conversation with people. So please prioritize learning. Very, very important. 8, this is where the rubber meets the road. Guard your DMO. So DMO is an acronym for daily mode of operation. So I learned this from Tony Robbins. So Tony Robbins says that in light of trying to achieve his main goals, whatever his goals is in the year, he realizes that there's a lot of different things that we're going to have to do, but that we need to have some things that we are anchored on that we have to do, probably daily. So he developed something called the 3 to Thrive system. So this 3 to Thrive system, he says that when he looks at all these goals and he distills everything, he would ask himself, what are the 3 things that he must do every single day that would take him in the direction of these goals? 3 things. Now, these things oftentimes are or are not connected directly to the goals, but they are connected to the things that will make sure he does the goals. Maybe connected to his energy level, or connected to him, for those of us that have read things like Atomic Habits and all that, connected to him having small wins in the day, connected to him essentially conquering a couple of things very early in the day, so he feels like he's won already, and then he takes that energy into the day, right? Exactly. Cues and triggers. So 3 things. Now, so for me, a couple of those, I have just about 3 of them that I know that, these 3 things, every other thing I would do in a day, I would pursue my goal, blah, 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 blah. But these 3 things for me would be quite constant. One of those 3 things is that I would take a walk every day. And I would take a walk. 95% of the time I would do it. I'll take a walk every day, except if I'm then driving in at 10 in the night or whatever, but I will take a walk every day. Now, in my walk, I do a number of things. Of course, it's exercise for me, so I sort of, what they call that thing? I turn on my app and I'm calculating my steps and all that. But really, it also serves 2 things for me. It gives me an opportunity to pray. So I spend some time praying. I'm grateful for different things in my life, and because usually for like 40 minutes, right? And in my walks, I do not take my phones. My wife decided to join me for a couple of days on those walks, and I said, look, you're joining me, no phones. So the first day she took her phone, and throughout the time she's on her phone and I'm working, and I said, look, if we want this to be like a good time for us to be able to communicate, no phone. So I don't take my phone. So sometimes if you try to call me between 8:30 and like 9:30 and I don't pick up, is because I'm not with my phones, right? So I don't take my phones. So it allows me to pray. It allows me to think. It allows me to daydream. So I put myself in the future and, essentially start to think about, what would the conversation be like if I'm talking to Dangote, and I would play an entire conversation with Dangote in my head. I would do all that crazy stuff. So for me, one of the things that must happen in my day. And so what happens if I don't do that for like 2 days, 3 days, running, I start to feel sick, right? That's more therapeutic for me than sleeping 6 hours, you know? So one of the things that must happen to me, for me, is that I must take a walk every single day, right? Because once I do that, say today, it sets tomorrow for me. It sets tomorrow, like, you know, and the way I see it is, you know, it gives me an opportunity to sort of pre-play. So I also think about my day, I think about what's going to happen tomorrow, a couple of things that's going to happen and all that. So that's one. Two is that I must spend 10 to 15 minutes on YouTube watching something that would benefit my business or benefit my life or benefit me in some, you know, significant way, right? So those two things are very, very critical. Now, I try to pray in the mornings, but oftentimes I find that when I get up, I have a lot of things that I do in the morning, you know, and all that kind of stuff. So it's difficult. So my prayer time and all that is really is hinged on that 40 minutes that I spend in the day. So I have to listen so rather I have to get some knowledge, you know, I have to watch something every single day. You know, I have to, you know, take a walk every single day, every freaking single day. I have to make sure that I do that. So I have to learn every single day. I have to take a walk every single day. And the third thing is the only thing that sort of changes, right? So the third thing is whatever it is that I'm attacking for that day, I would set that one goal and say, okay, what's the one thing that I have to achieve? So for example, for many years, you know, till date, but I've sort of like slowed down on that because a lot of those responsibilities are no longer on me directly. But for many years till date, the third thing was always I would make, I think it still is because I don't set it every day now because I sort of just do it. But the third thing for me every day was that I would make 15 calls every single day talking to clients, you know, every day. So, and I still do that now. I still average about 10 calls a day, even on Sundays. I would talk, and you know, I'm not, you know, it's not always about selling. It's really about just talking to the client. Now, in my business now, what I sell is different from what my people sell. So, you know, I don't have that many people to sort of call, but I still make 10 calls every day. I would talk to business owners. I would find out what's happening with them, you know, and oftentimes it usually would lead to a sale. But, you know, for me, for many years, that has been the third thing, but it's no longer like the third thing for me because it's sort of woven into my fabric now. So I try to find whatever that one thing is. Now, why is that important? Mike Murdoch said that the secret of our future is determined in our daily routine. No matter what you say you want in the future, it's what you do daily. It's what you do daily. So how do I select who to call daily? Beautiful. So at the beginning, I usually have a list. I have a list of people that I would, you know, write down every single day. I would have 15 people every single day that I would, you know, I would write them down the night before. I would think about, you know, whatever it is that I want to say with them, and I would call them, right? But these days, what has happened to me is that because most of the people that I call now are people who have come through our system. So maybe I'm selling our coaching program, or I'm selling our mastermind program, or I'm dealing with. So for example, today I've had to call somebody that we were having a conversation with on a business plan. I patched them onto somebody on my team. We're trying to develop a business plan because the person is trying to get funding from their home business, and the business plan has to deliver $100 million for the next 3 years. So we're figuring out, how do we get $100 million? How do we get in the business plan to figure out $100 million? That's what we said, that conversation. I dropped out of that call. That call went on for another hour because I was in a meeting with somebody else. And in that meeting, we had to figure out how do we generate about 3 to 5 million naira every month? Because this person is trying to transit into the knowledge industry and is having to retire in 16 days or 18 days rather. You know, but he started something. We've developed a system that can generate about 1 million to 1.5 every month. And then we developed another system based on what it has now that can get it up to about 3 to 5 million every month or every other month, rather. So, you know, so what I'm doing now is really talking to people, figuring out how we can help their business get better. But I at least I talk to 10 people in that category every single day. at least. Because for me, it's critical that I understand businesses, and every conversation is an education for me. Every conversation with every business owner is a big education for me. So whether we're talking about $100 million, or we're talking about 5 million naira, we're talking about 50 million naira, we're talking about whatever it is that I want to achieve, I like to have those conversations ongoing because it allows me to essentially learn a lot more from businesses. Because I don't consider myself an expert in business. I consider myself a learner, So figure out what the few things that you're going to do on a day-to-day basis are. And of course, if you're one of those people that have like 10 things that you want to do every day, that's okay. Have your to-dos, figure those things out. But have like those 3 things that set you up to make sure that you can get it. Some of us that are probably Christians or spiritual, you might have to have a situation where you pray in the morning and you get it on and you're all in the spirit and all that, and that's fine. That's fantastic if you can get that on. So I probably do mine morning. Even I wake up in the morning. So when I wake up in the morning, I wake up at 4:50 every morning. Most morning I've not woken up at 4:50 in this holiday because I've been sleeping a lot more, and because I've been sleeping a lot later, because this is the only time in the year that I watch series. I don't watch series on Netflix anytime. I hardly watch movies, but my rule is if you must watch anything, it must be a movie, 2 hours, I'm done. I don't have a commitment for series, except for this time of the year. So at this time of the year, I watch some series. I'm currently watching a series. If I talk about the series now, people will say I'm still boring. I'm watching a series about the series called Playlist. Is about the creation of Spotify. How Spotify, was created. So that's what I'm watching. So we finished watching it. Her and my wife had a conversation maybe for another hour about it yesterday night. Really talking about, because both of us are business people, so we're trying to analyze, this guy, this how he did, what he did. So how do we put that in our business, that kind of stuff. So we're still very, Diana, I know I'm boring. Number 9, before we end, remember that the journey is the reward. So if someone asks time frame you call your clients, so again, I call, so I know that I must call 10 of them every day. If you're asking, then I also would assume that you've not attended Strategy Factory. So in Strategy Factory, I teach a principle, and what I'm about to say, if you have not attended Strategy Factory, might sound stupid, but you need to hear it and see it for you to understand it. But I teach a principle of how you can know when people are thinking about you and call them at the exact same time they're thinking about you. And I teach a principle on how to get people to think about you, then call them when they're thinking about you. Right? So that's exactly how I figure out how to call and who to call. So usually about 80 to 90% of the time when I call somebody, they were exactly thinking about me. Yeah, Mr. Ego knows, so he says very true. Yeah. So it sounds like jazz, but just believe. So remember that the journey is the reward. So success is not like somewhere, right? Success itself is in the road to that somewhere. So if you're not enjoying the journey, you're missing the point. Now, this is the reason why I said at the beginning that, oh, good. See, a lot of people, there are people that are saying that it works. There are people that have attended the class. Yeah, these are my people. It's Victor. I didn't care what people. Yeah, try this separately. Beautiful. So this is the reason why I said earlier. Sorry, we overshot our time, but I'm hoping that it's still good, valuable. I think we have about just 15 minutes left. This is the reason why I said that you must get comfortable with working hard. See, because if you don't get comfortable with working hard, you're going to think that there's going to be a time of your life that you're not going to work as hard, and you're going to have the soft life, right? And you're going to be disappointed because you're going to realize that the soft life is a scam. It's, that, you're the one that is going to soften your own life in your hardness. That the baby girl life that you see on Instagram is on Instagram, but half the time, the baby girl is juggling so many balls. And it doesn't matter what she does for a living. Whether she's doing it legally or illegally, all of them, hard work to the inside. Do you know how much work it takes to bring down the World Trade Center as a terrorist? Do you know how much work it takes to be a successful Olosho? Do you know how much work it takes to be a small girl, big God type of person? It's work. It's work. Even people when they do Yahoo, it's work. It's work. Even Yahoo say work day for Yahoo. You know, hard work. It's not every Yahoo boy that is successful. It's not Yahoo boys that is successful. Even for Yahoo, say hard work today. You understand? You wake up, see Yahoo boys typing in the middle of the night. They are typing. When I was in 100 level, I used to have a Yahoo boy roommate. You know, so my room was a bit funny. We were about 8 people in my room. Even people in town hall from Bulabalu, yeah. Even devil said they do hard work. I mean, God see them one day say, where have you been? Say from working to us. Devil not the office. Devil there for streets. Devil there for streets. You do office. What are you doing in your office? I tell my staff that if you still in the office 3 days in a week, there's problem. There's problem. Even devil is not in the office. You go hellfire now, you will not meet devil there. Devil is on the streets. But you are in the office waiting for people to come and meet you. That's okay. So this is my friend. This is my friend. What's his name? I won't mention his name. So he's a Yahoo boy. And my bunk was up, his bunk was down. And I was completely impressed. This guy, and he's a very brilliant boy. Very, 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 very brilliant boy. Very brilliant boy. You know, he's so brilliant. I think he's graduated with 2-1. He will not be in school for a long time. He will come at the beginning and register, he'll leave. And then, of course, he has money as a Yahoo boy. He'll come back, do an exam, and he would pay he doesn't cheat in exam halls. He would pay the best students. So let's say the best in accounting, 1, 2, 0. That person will come, that one will sit down, and he would teach him. So yeah, maybe as an accounting, 1, 2, 0 exam the next day. That person would come, condense, of course, as a brilliant boy that he gave him money, you condense all the major lessons. Of course, where he cheats is that he has his boys that he has paid and write his tests because he doesn't have time for that. So he comes, the person will sit down, that person will teach him the base of what he needs to learn for the exam from like 10 a.m. to 2, 3 a.m. And then he'll go and ace the exam. You know, and I see, so one of those days I'm sleeping on my bed and I'm listening to this guy when he's talking to his Yahoo, Maga Yahoo, or whatever they call it. You see this my guy that his voice is like, you see the way we change his voice. His voice is now looking very, this guy just developed phoneme. Phoneme will just be flowing. Original American phoneme. It will just be flowing, you know, and I'm like, We used to call him Godson. And Godsons get phoneme like this. His phoneme is there, his work. To develop American phoneme as a Nigerian is hard work. Auto-tune. You know? So I remember one day, I had another roommate. This is my roommate. I've not seen, you know those people that are disgrace to God. I've not seen somebody that can disgrace God like this guy. This guy supposedly, so I had Yahoo boys in my room. I had people like myself, 2 or 3 of us that studied hard. And then we had this guy that was a disgrace. He was not brilliant. He would have a class at 9 a.m. And then he would start praying. And I kid you not, God is my witness. He will strike me down if I don't say. He would start praying, like praying at 8 o'clock. Now, in my school, the hostel is far away from the school that you have to take a bus. He will now finish his prayer at 9 o'clock. He will now start going for a 10 o'clock class that ends at 11 or 12. So he will miss 1 hour of the class and then get to class. And he's failing. So one day I called him. I said, sit down. He was praying one of those days. I said, do you have a class? He said, yes. I said, sit down. I said, don't pray again. I said, you need to do Yahoo. He said, why? I said, because you are a disgrace to God. This prayer you're praying and this failing you're failing, I'm angry on behalf of God. You need to do Yahoo. Yahoo. See, we have Yahoo people in this room. Godson. please can you adopt him and teach him some Yahoo? Because this, we need him. How will you be praying and be failing? Yahoo, just do Yahoo. So that we know that, okay, you're just Yahooizing yourself, everything's good. But how will you now be, you'll be praying, you're supposed to be in class, you'll be praying. It's when class starts, you start prayer meeting, everything. No, just do Yahoo. I was serious with him that day. I wanted to, if there was a class for Yahoo, I would have registered for a Yahoo class that day, But the key here is to realize that the journey is the reward. So what it means is that you have to enjoy yourself. What does that mean? It means that, and I've said this before, that when you set goals or you create your dreams, always also attach some form of a fun dream. What's a fun dream? A fun dream is saying, if I achieve these things that I want to achieve, how would I celebrate? Right? So that you can enjoy the journey, so that you can enjoy the journey along the way. The journey along the way is the success. How many of us have ever had this before? You've ever achieved something really, really significant, a big goal. Maybe you bought a car, or you made some money, the alert entered into your account, and you were happy, but it was very shortly. In like 30 minutes, you felt a deep sense of emptiness after you're happy that you couldn't explain. And it was even made worse because you couldn't tell anybody. And because if anybody saw how you felt, how you really felt, they would say that you are ungrateful or, whatever it is, right? Has it happened to you before? Now, the reason why it happens is because we forget that the journey is actually the reward. So I had a very, very powerful lesson from one of my mentors. She's late now. She's one of the people that I couldn't say no to. So anytime if I had anything, I'd tell her. She said, Ezekiel, one of the reasons why, she started with this. She said, Ezekiel, you must never achieve your goals. I said, what do you mean by that, man? She said that the moment you are achieving a goal to the tune of 70, 80%, set another one. Set another goal. Right? And I was like, so when are you going to finally celebrate? She said, but that's the point. You have to learn to celebrate the effort you're putting towards your goal and not the results you're getting from your goals. Celebrate the effort you're putting, knowing that by the law of averages, a certain level of effort would no doubt produce a certain level of results. So I'm excited when I've talked to 10 people every day. And so I celebrate with myself when I've talked to 10 people every day. I celebrate with my team so I'll give you an instance. In the team, right, what we consider success is not the result, but the effort that shows indication of certain results. So for example, we want to do a pitch class. So we say to ourselves, the goal is that we put out ads, we put out information, we must have 300 people who get into the group. That's success for us. Because we know that if we have 300 people who get into the group, we would have 100 people who come to the class. We cannot control the 100. We can control the 300. That's what we focus on. We have 300 people in the group. Success for us. Period. And so every single day, you must learn to celebrate yourself. You must learn to celebrate each milestone because the reward of this life is the journey itself. It's who you're becoming as you achieve the goals. It's the things that you're having to learn, you're having to do away with, you're having to put more effort in or take more effort out of, whatever it is. The real success is in the journey. So don't wait until you achieve something. In fact, like the way Dr. Maria would say to me, don't even achieve your goals. Always be in a position of not yet achieving them, because as you move closer, shift the goalpost. But if it's difficult to do that if you only rejoice when you achieve it ultimately. So you must rejoice and base your celebration on the effort inputs than on the results that are out there, right? If you turn back and you put in everything that you've got and you know that you couldn't have done it better, it's a beautiful day. It's more of a beautiful day than when things happen your way or don't happen your way. And then lastly, sorry. Oh, my screen has frozen. Can anybody still hear me? Oh, okay. My screen is frozen. Let me just wait for a minute. Okay, so you give me 1 second. I'm going to take the screen off and then bring it back in like a second. So give me 1 second. I'm bringing the screen back in a shot. Good. So, okay. And then lastly, join the mastermind. So this one is both a fact and a pitch. I'm going to be honest with you. So first is find a group of people that you could be accountable to. So for example, one of the ways that we're structuring the mastermind, of course, we're structuring for people to learn and sort of grow. But what we are mainly structuring it around is for people to be accountable. So for example, and I know there are a number of mastermind people here, so I should just tell them so that they know before they come, that each month we would all set goals. And we'll set goals each month because we're going to have one major meeting each month, and everybody will come out and announce what their goals are for the next month and the things that they want to achieve. And then in the next month, we would spend the first half of the day with each person getting about 30 minutes to come and explain to us what they achieved in their goals in terms of whether they did or did not achieve their goals and why they did or did not achieve it. So that way we can all probe, ask questions, so that the person can figure out whether, of course, we can learn something from what they did, but more importantly, we could also help them refine some of the things that they did. And sometimes they're talking about these things, and we can easily say, oh, you didn't do that because you didn't get this contact, or this contact, we have this contact, and let's get things done, right? So very, very important. Being accountable to a group that won't accept your excuses, accept excuses from me is priceless. So you need to find those types of people. Now, some people joining our mastermind, unfortunately, probably only one, maybe 1.5 space, because one of the people in the group, I'm not so sure if he or she, let me be honest, is very, very ready yet, or not, but so we have 1.5 1.5 space, but you could join it. I would, if you are here, I could still extend that 50%. If you're watching it afterwards, I could still extend that 50% to you. That could work. We could figure out how to make that work for you, but that's not important. So please, a few people have said that they're going to join the KBB. I want to just run through this, and I'll open up for questions. We'll take a couple of questions, and then we'll call it an evening, right? So in January, we're having the KBB class. We have a few people registered already, and it's going to be fully residential. It's going to be at a hotel. It's going to be massive, right? We have people that have gone through the class and their lives is completely different, and they're able to sort of be the kind of people that they want to be, able to build a knowledge business that really, really, of course, impacts, but also makes them money. And for those of us that have not attended the Strategy Factory, please attend. The next one is in January. In January 27th, So very, very important. And for that class, we would also be sharing some information. We're doing our first, so if you've not attended Strategy Factory and you want to attend, we're doing a pitch class. So we usually only have those pitch classes online, but we want to try one out, a live class, pitch class, but it's going to be at Ebony Live Place in VI. It's at 9 a.m. And we're hoping that you would be there. So the 12th, it's free. That link will be available. We'll probably share it in all the groups so that you can register and be part of it. And the likes, and of course the last one, very, very well. Thank you for those, so the many of us that are coming, that are still here. The strategy convention next year. Most of us here would have attended the strategy convention this year, because a lot of us are from the strategy convention group. I wanted to just update us on where we are at the moment. So we want to create a situation where you'll be able to attend, you'll be able to pay, get 50% discount, and you'll be able to pay instrumentally. We did that for some people last year. And so we'll get you the information on that. But I just wanted to update you on a couple of people that we've started to confirm as speakers. So at the moment, we have contacted Dangote's team. We've spoken to the head of corporate comms, and we are at the process of confirming him. We're going to have him hopefully confirmed by January, before the end of January. We've confirmed, contacted, and sent an official letter to Lekki Alda's team. So that should also be ready for us by January. Of course, we've confirmed here this Dr. Becky Rada. Some of us attended the last class. She came and she made a brief appearance. So we've confirmed her. She's coming for next year. We have confirmed the chairman of the P1 group. Sorry, group head corporate communication. Yes, sir. For Dangote, we've contacted the group head corporate communication. Is the guy who determines where Dangote goes to speak. And we've had a meeting with him. It was a beautiful meeting, by the way. So that's important. We've also contacted Ibuka Woshika. And but in our case, we're going to confirm by the second week of February. So that's the date that we were given to be able to confirm that. We've confirmed Ubuchukwumegu. We've acquired the contact of the person for Tony. But the reason why we're holding off with Tony a little bit is that we're going for Dangote. It won't be nice to have Dangote and Tony in the same, it's a waste of space. So we want to see where Dangote gets us by the third, fourth week of January. And if we're there, then we just hold on to Tony and then invite him for the next year. We've also spoken to the contact person for Akin Alabi, but I've not pushed the invitation yet because I want to be ultimately sure about Lekki Alda. If Lekki Alda is good, then we'll use him for the next year. And then what's her name? Juliet Ehimwa. She's the head Google Africa. She's Nigerian. She's here. She's an amazing person. We've also contacted her. Besides, she's also a Forbes Coaches Council member. So I sent her a message within the Forbes Coaches Council already. So, and then one of us knows her personally. So we're going to talk with her. Once she confirms, we'll add that to the list of people up there. So having said that, I want to say thank you. Thank you so much for today. And I'll take questions. And so you need a perfect year, because the perfect year doesn't yield a perfect result. It yields an unbelievable result. Good. So anybody wants to ask me a question? Any question? Do I allow us to unmute yourself? I think so if you want to ask a question and you want to unmute yourself, I think now you can. And then you can ask a question. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I hope it's been worth your time. I hope you learned something that could probably make this year a better year for you. I hope. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We did 2 hours, unfortunately, but I guess it was worth it. Okay. Any other question? Any question whatsoever?
Hi, sir. I have a question here.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Actually, I typed the only question in the chat room, but
Oh,
you
I'm not
got
sure I
to
saw.
answer just one of them. Can you hear me
Okay,
clearly?
I can hear you now. Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So for someone like myself, right? I'm a realtor, and most of the time it's quite difficult to engage clients or to get them handy because the timing could be wrong and things like that. Then, as a matter of fact, it's the 9 to 5 scheme, or rather 8 to 6 scheme for me. So, if you're going to have a projected time frame which you feel best works for me taking a walk like daily, because usually I take walks, and that's basically when I want to brainstorm. But I most of the time I go with my phone, so I've learned the fact that I shouldn't do that with my phone if I really have to focus on my thoughts. But basically, I want to really learn how I'm going to get these people to get their attention full time. Because there's a client that I'm really he owns a huge company, so I'm just trying to see how it would be best for me to get his attention totally.
Okay.
So
So first,
I don't know how you.
I'd have to ask you. So the answer to your question is a 1 hour class in the Strategy Factory, and I'm assuming you have not attended.
No, sir, I haven't. I haven't.
Because it's difficult. If I start answering that question, I will take a lot of time. So here's
Wow.
what I would. Yeah, because it's two ways.
Okay.
So the challenge is that when you're talking to entrepreneurs, right, it's very dicey because you don't know if you call them during the day and they're busy, right? And then you call them in the evening and then they're tired, right? So it's difficult to know when you want to call them. Do you want to call them in the evening, call them in the afternoon, call them in the evening, and all that. So there are two modules. There's one that I call business networking that we teach in class, how I teach you on how you can use things like Google Alerts to sort of align yourself with the interest of your prospective clients and sort of keep in touch with them in such a way that they realize that you are interested in them, not just from a perspective of wanting to get money, but from a perspective of supporting whatever it is that they're into. And then I also teach the concept of how to be able to get them to actually think about you, so that you can then have the conversations with them. So it's going to be quite a tall order for me to patch those 2 hours into just one session. But we have a Strategy Factory in January. It's on a Friday. It's on the 27th. If you can find your way there, you would have all these answers. And even after that, my team, where we have one-on-one meetings with everybody that comes into that class, then you'd be able to figure it out. And I would be able to share with you some of these things that are indispensable. Am I planning
Okay,
another
that's
Strategy
totally
for
fine.
Abuja? Nah, not yet. Not yet.
Thank you
Not
very
yet.
much
Yeah.
for the stage. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I would stop the recording. I will still take the questions, but I will stop the recording now so that it doesn't make the class
Yeah,
be recorded.
that's good though.